All right, this video for transitional math, assignment 14. Again, a lot of general knowledge here. I'm not some great money person, so if I mess something up, I apologize. I hope I'm telling you everything right, but the main thing is that you get some knowledge and then you go out and don't just trust me, study it up for yourself and figure out how to invest your money and what to do with your money. On this, your assignment is going to be just to send me the completion. All I want is it's going to be one thing, so just one letter, number, symbol, something you're going to send me on an email and have assignment 14 and then whatever it is. So if it was the pi symbol, then that's what you're going to send me. That's not what it's going to be, but you're just going to send me one thing, and that one thing is going to be, I'm going to have a message up here. On each slide it has a letter, number, symbol, something on it. You're going to write all those down, and at the end it's going to be missing one thing, and you're going to send me what it's missing, and that's your assignment. There is no math involved in this assignment. It's just to give you some of this basic knowledge about these different ways to use your money. The first part here, so the first thing you're going to write down is just C. And on each slide it'll have something somewhere here, and that's what you're going to write down. So the first one is C. First thing here, annual percentage yield. Annual percentage yield is a rate of return on an investment for 1 year. So you put money into an account, and it's the percentage that you will earn on that money in 1 year. That's your APY, your annual percentage yield. I'm giving that to you up front because we're going to use that throughout the lesson. Next one, this is annual percentage yield again. Notice here, make sure you write that down. Got an O. Formula for annual percentage yield. Interest for 1 year. So the money that you earn in that 1 year divided by the principal, which is the original amount of money that you put into the account. So that's a formula. Again, we're not doing any math. This is just giving you general knowledge. So you're not really going to use that formula for now, but you may use it on down the road somewhere. Don't forget to write down your letter there. Next one, the first kind of investment that we're going to talk about is a certificate of deposit, a CD. A CD is a kind of savings account that requires a specific amount of money deposited for a specific period of time. And once it's in there, it's locked in for that amount of time. And it earns a higher interest rate than just a regular savings account because they're locking up your money, so it's held in there for that amount of time, whether it's a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And they're going to pay you a higher interest rate than they would just pay on a savings account. Again, it's a lump sum of money put into an account for a predetermined amount of time with an interest rate that's higher than a normal savings account. CDs are like money that the bank borrows or the credit union borrows from you. So instead of them making you a loan, it's like you're making them a loan and they're paying you interest. The bad thing is they don't pay you as high an interest on for your money, using your money, as you pay them for using their money. The average interest rate for a CD right now is about 0.45% APY, annual percentage yield. So again, that's, if we change that to a decimal form, that's about 0.0045. That means about half a penny. So if you put $1 into this account for a year, you would earn about a half a penny over that year. So if you put it in there for 2 years, $1 in there for 2 years, you would earn 1 penny. That's about the average right now. So if you put $1,000 in a 1-year CD, you would earn about $4.50 over that 1 year. You got to shop around when you're looking for CDs. If you're trying to put money into a CD account to try to save money for something, whatever, or earn money for something, you got to shop around. I looked online, and this is the average APY, but I seen APYs that were 1.7 or higher, which is about 3 or 4 times higher than that one right there, higher than the average. So if you shop around, you can get a better percentage. Things that are involved in a CD, the interest rate, that's what we were just talking about, so make sure you shop around, look for the best rate that you can possibly get. The term, which is the amount of time that you're putting it in there for. A lot of CDs are for 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it happens to be. Remember that money is locked in there for that amount of time. If you take it out before then you incur penalties. When that time's up, that's called when the CD matures. And at maturity, you are paid the value of the CD. So if it was a $1,000 CD, then you're paid back that $1,000. The principal is the original amount of money you put in, and the institution is the bank or the credit union or the money institution that you get your CD through. Make sure wherever you get it from, that they have, or they're part of one of these two, they're not really, they're sort of companies, because this is like insurance for banks. So if your bank or credit union happens to go under, your money is insured. That just means you're going to get your money back. That it's not just going to be lost. Banks usually borrow money from the federal government at what's called the federal funds rate, FFR. Again, make sure you're writing down these letters each time. This time it's an A. The FFR, if the FFR is low, then interest rates on the CDs will be low. So that means the CD is not really real good. So the reason for that is if the bank can borrow money from the federal government pretty cheaply, then they're not going to want to borrow money from you, right? Because if they can do it cheaper, paying the federal government less, then that's what they're going to do, because a bank is still a business and they're still trying to make money. So if the FFR is high, then what the banks will do, so if the FFR is high and the banks are going to have to pay, the federal government $100 for the money that they're trying to borrow, well, what they're going to do is they're going to try to get people to come in and get in their CD accounts so that they can borrow money from you and maybe only pay you $90, so they can save money there. All right, so if the FFR is high, then they're going to try to sell you or get you to get into a CD account and pay you a little higher interest, but not so high that it's more than the money they would be paying the federal government if they borrowed money from them. So CDs are money that they're borrowing from you, and they're going to pay you back in interest, but they're going to still try to make as much money as they possibly can. An example, right now during the pandemic, not a good time to buy a CD because FFR is very low. And since it is very low, it's the CD rate is very, very low. So not a good time to go in and get into a CD account right now. Each year you pay taxes on the interest earned on the CD. So whatever interest you earn on that CD, you got to pay taxes on it. Make sure you write down your letter on this slide. When a CD reaches maturity, when it comes to the end of that term, So 1 year, 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is, 3 things you can do. You can roll it over into another CD account, which isn't the best thing to do usually, because if you're gonna put it into another CD account, you again wanna shop around to make sure you're getting the best possible rate that you can. You can transfer it to a different account, so maybe you transfer it to some other account where you're earning money on it, or you can just withdraw the funds and do whatever you want with it. Again, make sure you're writing down the letter. Pros, for a CD, it's a higher rate than a savings account, so that's a pro, that's a good thing. It pays a set rate. That could be good. Like right now, if you had a CD from a year ago and it was earning a certain percentage, that percentage is probably higher right now than, or is higher than if you went in and got a CD right now, because the percentage on it would be sort of low right now with the pandemic and everything. Federally insured, as long as you got it through a company that's federally insured, you're not going to lose your money, so that means it's safe. The money is locked in. I know this doesn't affect you guys because you're never ever tempted to just go out and blow your money on something. So it's locked in there, so you're not tempted to just spend it on something silly that maybe is unnecessary. The cons, again, make sure you write down the letters. The cons, money's stuck until it reaches maturity unless you pay penalties. Those are EWPs, early withdrawal penalties. You got to really, really make sure that you read the contract when you start one of these accounts, one of these CD accounts, because those EWPs, sometimes it's in the contract, and if you draw out the money early, they're going to take a whole bunch of your money. So you got to make sure you're reading and getting a decent deal when you sign up for something. Another con, it earns less than if you put it in stocks or bonds. So it's not going to earn as high a percentage, but with stocks or bonds, you might lose money, whereas with the CD, it's pretty safe. Earns a fixed rate. Again, I said that could be good. It could be bad. If you go in and you start a CD today, it's going to be at that rate and it's locked at that rate. So if our economy starts to come back and the rates go up, you might be just locked at that one certain rate, and you could have gotten a better rate if you'd waited a little while. These are formulas for CDs. Again, make sure you write down your letter there. And we're not going to do any math with this, so it's not that big a deal to really know these formulas. I'm just giving them to you for your general knowledge or general information. Amount equals original principal times amount of $1. This is from a chart that we could have that I would have normally sent you, but we're not going to do it right now. The compound interest is the amount minus the original principal. So that's the amount of interest that you actually earned on it, is you take how much you have in there now minus the original amount of money that you put in. Mutual funds, another way to invest money. Again, make sure you write down your letter. Mutual fund is a kind of investment offered by an investment company which accumulates the savings of many individuals and invests them in a portfolio of stocks, bonds, and or both. So what a mutual fund is you go to some investment company and they have you and a whole bunch of other people bringing them money, and they put it all in like a big basket, and then they invest it in certain things, whatever it is. If you are invested in a mutual fund, you own the stock in that mutual fund. So if you go down and you work with Edward Jones out of Eaton, or one of the investment companies out of Eaton or Richmond or wherever, and they say, oh yeah, we invest in Apple and all this other stuff, you own parts of that mutual fund. You do not own parts of the actual companies. So just because they invest in Apple, that doesn't mean you own part of Apple. Net asset value, the NAV, is the worth of a share of a mutual fund. So that's how much your mutual fund is worth per share. It's determined by dividing the total market value by the number of shares that are outstanding. Loading charge, a loading charge is a fee paid to the investment company either when purchasing shares of a mutual fund or when selling shares based on a percentage. So that investment company is going to get their money, and this is part of the way that they get their money, is when they buy or sell those shares of that mutual fund for you. Pros to a mutual fund, this is an I. It's simple, it's easy. You could actually do it on your own, and a lot of people do now. A lot of mutual funds are diverse. They invest money in a lot of different areas, and what that's good for is the fact that if they don't have all their money in one area, like if they had all their money in Apple and Apple went under, then you lose all that money. So they invest it in different areas, so even though one company might be having trouble, another company might be making money. It's versatile, lots of different mutual funds around. So it's just many, many different things. So if you have something you're thinking that, all right, robotics is going to go up a bunch here in the next few years for some reason, and you can go out and search and find some mutual fund that deals mainly with robotics or whatever, or computers or whatever it is, and invest in that. Accessibility. You don't need a whole lot of money to invest in a mutual fund. All right, so you don't have to be some real rich person to invest in a mutual fund. So those are the pros, those are the good things about it. Cons, again, make sure you write down this letter. You can lose money, but when you go in and you talk to these investment companies, what they'll tell you is that you look over the long haul. So hopefully over the long haul, over many, many years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, in a mutual fund, hopefully you're earning 7 to 10% on your return. So of the money you put in, you're raising that value 7 to 10%. The bad thing is, something like right now, if I go look at mine, I'd probably cry because the monies that I have in mutual funds and different things, I'm losing a whole bunch of money right now during this pandemic. And hopefully it'll come back here in the next few years. Again, make sure you write down this letter. These are just some different formulas. I'm not going to talk completely about all these. You got your loading charge formula, number of shares purchased, net selling price, and your profit or your loss. Bonds. Next thing is bonds, different kinds of bonds. Again, make sure you write that down. Agreement, where you loan money to a government or company. So this is, again, you're giving them money, you're loaning them money, a government or a company, and they agree to pay you back the amount plus interest. Bonds can be set up different ways. Again, I could be completely wrong here. So you got to research this stuff yourself if you're going to deal with bonds. I always thought in the past bonds were, you paid like $950 for a bond that had a face value of $1,000, and then at the end of a year, 5 years, 10 years, then you were paid that face value. I think some bonds are still set up that way. Other bonds could be set up where you pay $1,000 for a $1,000 bond, and they pay you interest throughout the period of time, throughout the year, 5 years, 10 years, until it's mature, until you reach the end of that maturity. And then they pay you back the money that you put in originally, the original principal of $1,000. So you made that whatever interest you accumulated over that amount of time is the money you made off of that bond. Again, make sure you write down the letter. 3 main types of bonds. There's a treasury bond. That's money that you're loaning to the federal government. They're also called T-bills. They're very safe. The only way that you would lose money on a treasury bond, I think, is if the federal government got overthrown. So they're very safe, but they have a very low interest rate. So they don't pay real well. Seems like my mother-in-law used to buy these for my sons every year for their birthday or Christmas or whatever. Instead of giving them money or presents, she would always buy them like a $500 treasury bond or a $100 treasury bond, and then you just put it away, and after, she paid like $50 for it or $75 for it or something, and then after 10 years it's worth that face value. Municipal bonds. A municipal bond is a loan to a city or local government. They're a little riskier than the federal, but they have a little higher interest rate. And they're riskier just because the city government or whatever could fail and go under and the city's no longer there or whatever. A corporate bond is a loan to just a specific company. They're also called junk bonds. Not really sure why that is, but they're high risk because the business could go under. But you get paid a higher interest rate. So if the business does well, you would make a higher interest rate than either one of these other two. But it's not like owning stock in the business. You don't actually own part of the business. If the business goes under, you probably just lose your money. If you own stock in the business and the business goes under, there's ways that you can probably get some of your money back. Pros and cons of bonds. Again, make sure you write down your letter. Bonds are very safe if you get the right kind. You can use the interest as income, so if you put enough money in the bonds, as that interest comes in each month or quarterly or whatever they pay you, you can just use that as income. A lot of times, and I don't know a whole lot about this, but you can resell the bonds and make money off of them. So if you buy a bond and you have it for a couple years and it's a 10-year bond, you could sell it and maybe make some money off of it. The cons: low interest rates. Interest rates aren't as high as stocks or as stocks. If it's a corporate bond, then it's risky. And the other bad thing with the bond is you're giving them $1,000 or whatever it is. It could be any amount of money. You're giving them $1,000 and inflation skyrockets and they give you back your $1,000 after 5 years or whatever. Well, that $1,000 back here 5 years ago was worth a whole lot more than the $1,000 now if inflation went up a bunch. Again, make sure you write down your letter. Just 3 formulas here: bond cost, face value times the percentage that you're paying. Annual interest is your face value times the interest rate. Your annual yield is your annual interest divided by the cost of the bond, same as the other formula. The next thing is an IRA, an individual retirement plan. Make sure you write down your letter. An IRA is a tax-deferred retirement account for an individual. It's sort of a retirement savings account that has tax benefits. With an IRA, it's sort of a savings account where your money is invested for you. So you're putting money into this account, and then some investment company or whatever is investing it for you. It's used for long-term retirement plans. So you're thinking about this is going to be money that you're going to have when you retire. You add money to the account, usually a set amount. I have so much money pulled out of each of my checks to put into my IRA, into a retirement account. There's a limit on how much you can add to this IRA per year, and it's $6,000 to $7,000. It's $6,000 is normal, $7,000. I thought I wrote this in here, but apparently not. As you get older, if you get to a certain age, then they'll let you put in $7,000 per year to make sure you're having enough to save for retirement. There's rules on when and how you withdraw the money. And one of those rules is a required minimum distribution. If you reach a certain age, and it'll, again, on these IRAs, it'll tell you, if you look at it when you first sign up for it, you have to draw out a certain amount. So the amount that you're required to withdraw from a traditional IRA once you reach retirement age or some other age that's in the contract that you sign. So there's a certain age. I know that we have one IRA that was my father-in-law's, and he died when he was 70, and at age 70 he had to start taking out a certain amount of money from this account, or you get charged penalties. And so for the first couple months after he passed away, and we had this account, and he would have been over the age of 70, they were charging us money for the penalties because he wasn't drawing out any money. So you have to, if you reach that certain age, money has to start being drawn out of that account. Two main types of IRAs. Again, make sure you write down your letter here. There's a traditional IRA, that's the first one. In a traditional IRA, the main things about a traditional IRA, you put money into the account before it's taxed. So if I tell them I want to put $500 out of my check each time into a traditional IRA, there's no tax paid on that $500. It goes directly into the account. The money grows, and you don't get taxed on that money that you're putting in. There's a limit per year. Again, $6,000, or as you get older, you can put in up to $7,000. There are big withdrawal penalties. Found this out earlier this year. I had to pay monies for my son's college, and so we need to draw out some money of one of the IRA accounts that we have, and you have to pay 10% of what you draw out. So if we wanted to draw out $5,000, we had to pay $500, and we had to pay a real high tax rate on it, which is a very high tax rate. So you got to be careful if you're putting money in an IRA. Early withdrawal stuff, you just can't draw out the money early because you're going to lose a bunch of money. Other kind of IRA is a Roth IRA. Roth IRA, you pay taxes on the money before you put it in your account. A lot of people are changing to these now because they're figuring, hey, if I'm putting money in there now, if I pay taxes on it now, taxes that I pay now are going to be lower than taxes I pay 30 years from now or whenever I retire. Again, don't forget to write down your letter here. Once you pay those taxes, you don't pay taxes when you withdraw it. And you can withdraw this money anytime, before retirement, whenever, because it's your money now. So you're putting it into this Roth IRA account, and you don't have to worry about paying taxes on it ever again. So if you retire, then you're just drawing that money out without paying the taxes. You can't take out the earnings, the interest in whatever money you make. You can't just take out those earnings at any time. That goes back to sort of like it's in a traditional account, and it's got to be separated. So you can only draw out what the money that you've put into the account without getting charged some kind of tax or some kind of withdrawal penalties. There's, again, a limit, same limit as a traditional, on how much you can put in per year. IRAs are an investment vehicle. That just means it's a way, you put your money in something that's a way to get it invested, and you can make decisions on how that, and this should be a money sign, how that money is invested. So you can do high-risk stuff where either you make a bunch of money or you lose a bunch of money, or you can do low risk, or you can do moderate risk, so on and so on. You can decide how you want that money to be invested with that investment company. Bad thing with an IRA, again, is you can lose money. And a lot of people are finding out right now that that's true, because a lot of people are losing money right now. Another kind of retirement plan that's sort of like an IRA is a 401k. Some companies offer 401k, some don't. 401k, again, an IRA, sort of the same. 401k can only be offered by an employer. So it has to go through your employer to have a 401k. If a 401k is a very good thing if the employer matches the money you put in. So what that means is if I put in $200 out of each check, they match it and they put in $200. So it's like I'm doubling my money that's getting put in there. 401k has a higher limit than an IRA. You can put in up to $19,500 into a 401k instead of just a 6 or 7. It's probably good to have both. So if you have a 401k or some kind of retirement plan through your company, it's also not a bad idea to have an IRA so that you make sure you have plenty of money when you retire. Again, make sure you write down that right there. Last thing is these formulas. I'm not going to go through all these formulas. Make sure you write this down. Again, all I want to see on your email that you're going to send me to show that you watched this video is the one thing that's missing out of all that you wrote down. There's one thing that's missing. That's all I want to see, and you'll get credit for doing this assignment.